I'm just a middle-aged woman. I have lived and breathed the world of romance fraud for over 2 years now, and I've investigated until I couldn't investigate anymore. But I'm not a journalist, and I'm not trained in investigating scumbags. Likewise, I ain't no copper. I've spoken to dozens of police officers and at times wondered what it would be like to be a renegade fraud investigator, wearing a plus-size sequined catsuit, hunting down scammers with a crossbow. But this comes with its own set of legal complications, so I've abandoned that fantasy. However, not being part of the police means that I have struggled with some of the processes, although by the end of this book you'll discover that that appears to be a problem experienced by many within the force as well. And lastly, I'm not a fraud professional. The world of fraud is super, super complicated. And during the course of researching the book, I've spoken to barristers, forensic accountants, criminologists, psychologists, professors, heads of banks, intelligence analysts, CEOs, COOs, CIOs, MDs, and every other initialism under the sun. Basically, what I'm saying is that I have spoken to a massive pile of hugely clever people over the past year, some of whom may as well have been speaking another language, they were so clever. I'm fairly certain at one point an intelligence analyst I spoke to used a 7-syllable word. 7. The V word. Throughout my research, I've had many conversations about the word victim and whether it's the best description for the people who have given money to romance scammers. Some people have said that they don't like it and that we should be looking for another term. I've heard people suggest we refer to victims as the wounded, the injured party, or survivors. I've decided to stick with the original term because personally I see nothing wrong with it. I've been a victim of various things in my life, some criminal, some not. I don't see it as something that defines me or that I have now become one of life's eternal victims. I merely see it as I have been a victim of a specific crime or individual. I think we should be changing the stigma around the word rather than the word itself. The S word. Here's another thing that people are having a right old row about. I've often heard it said that we shouldn't be using the words scam or scammer when it comes to romance fraud. We should be saying fraud or fraudster instead. I do understand this because scam has almost reached slang status and is bandied about all over the place, perhaps trivialising it. Fraud does have maybe more gravitas about it. The fact that I use both throughout the book has nothing to do with trivialising the subjects or the people affected. It's for the same reason that I use victim. We need to change the stigma around the word rather than look for new ones. Also, I find scammer pleasingly derogatory to the people responsible. I don't want to think of them as a clever fraudster. I prefer to think of them as a nasty little grubby scammer.